might have been thinking about launching your own business, but concerns about how to keep costs low, how to start, how to raise first financing may have held you back. In today's video, I am going to tell you all what you need to know about four things: launching a lean business, raising funds even if you don't have access to VCs or angel investors, key considerations for e-commerce businesses in 2026, as well as the importance of customer experience for winning customers. For those of you who are new to my channel, hi, I'm Afan, a former investment analyst and a startup growth advisor. For almost a decade, I've been leading e-commerce and digital first businesses and have helped several founders raise first financing. Without further delay, let's get going. How exactly to build an e-commerce business in 2026? We'll cover topics such as what to outsource and what to keep in-house, what your ideal team should look like, where your budget should go, how to raise early investment, and what success should realistically look like in the first couple of years. Now, let's start with the biggest decision. What should you outsource and what should you keep internal? A lean startup wins by focusing on things that are strongly linked to your vision. As such, the elements that you need to keep in-house are your core competencies. What could these be? These are the things where your brand's value and differentiation comes from. First is product and category strategy. Deciding on what to sell, how it is positioned, and what your pricing and assortment should look like. For example, a sustainable skincare brand should own the product formula, the packaging decisions, and the brand story. Second is branding and customer experience. Tone of voice, content direction, customer service policy are some of the things that fall into this category. For example, if you are launching a premium coffee brand, your storytelling and customer interactions are part of your value creation. The third element that falls into this bucket of what you should keep in-house is your growth strategy. Understanding your own data, your customer acquisition costs, your channels, which channels work, what is the margin depending on the type of channel used. This is where businesses fail when they outsource too early. Moving on to the parts that you can outsource. As you can imagine, these are typically the ones that are not really core to your business, or these are more easily commoditized tasks. These are the functions where experts can do it cheaper, faster, and better than you, so there's no point to build such competencies inside. A couple of examples or the elements that fall into this bucket are fulfillment and logistics. Here you can use third-party logistics. You don't really need to build your own warehouse. For example, there are Shopify fulfillment partners and other third-party logistic companies out there almost everywhere in the world. Second element is performance marketing execution. So the big focus here is on the word execution. Strategizing kept in-house, but execution potentially outsourced. The strategy should be internal. However, when it comes to running ads, optimizing campaigns, this could be outsourced to specialists. Third is web development for certain complex features. For example, basic Shopify stores are quite easy to set up, but then to build custom templates, integrations, automation workflows, this can be handled a lot more efficiently with agencies or experienced freelancers rather than spending your time to learn these capabilities, which could have a huge opportunity cost for you as a founder. Lastly, accounting and legal. You don't really need to hire dedicated lawyers, legal advisors, or financial analysts in the very beginning of the start of your company. You can outsource all of these elements until you are able to scale. Now, the rule is simple. Keep thinking in-house. Outsource the doing until you are able to scale. Now let's go into the second part, which is implications of what to keep in-house versus outsource on the kind of organization that you should build. For a lean e-commerce startup in 2026, a small, high-leverage team beats a big one. Here are the typical 3 to 4 people that you need to start your business. First is the founder and CEO. who owns the product vision, commercial strategy, partnerships, fundraising elements, and also acts as the first head of marketing and operations. The second person in here is your growth lead or performance manager. This is the person who will own the growth strategy, focus on analytics, conversion rate optimization, testing how different channels operate, and this person is also responsible for working with the outsourced execution partners. The third one, especially if you are not just buying brands and reselling, but creating your own brand of products, this is brand and content lead. This person owns the creative direction, focuses on building the content calendar, focuses on enriching your social media identity, and basically, in other words, they are the brand's voice. The fourth, which is optional, and in many cases, this job could be done by the founder and CEO, is customer experience manager. Now, customer experience is an element that I have spoken to a lot in my last couple of videos, because regardless of, whatever the quality of product or service that you are selling, if you are lacking in terms of customer experience, customers will not come back to you, right? Now, this customer experience manager is predominantly responsible for handling your customer service operations, returns, feedback loops, and so on. Moving on to the part that is outsourced, here the kind of people who might be working as part of an agency or as a freelancer supporting your growth are a performance marketing agency, a third-party logistics partner, part-time web developer, and a part-time finance and accounting or legal advisor. The key to remember here is that this model keeps your fixed costs low while allowing you to scale. And once you are at a scale stage, then obviously you can decide to bring some of these people in-house. And the beauty of engaging with agencies and freelancers in this mode is that once you are able to scale, you know the people potentially that can come into your team full time once you have achieved that scale. Now let's go into potential hurdles and budget considerations. Whenever launching a new business or a startup, there are some harsh realities. It is not a smooth ride. Things can go wrong and will go wrong. Here are the most common pain points that you need to be aware of, because some of these you might face when launching your business. Some of the potential hurdles include high customer acquisition costs. Paid ads across Meta, Google, TikTok, etc. continue to rise, and many startups burn all their budget before finding product market fit. There could be supply chain delays, manufacturing delays, freight cost volatility, minimum order quantity challenges can all lead to delays in your product launches. There are going to be inventory risks. Sometimes you might order too much, which ties up your cash. Sometimes you might have some SKUs that could become slow movers and they end up occupying space in your warehouse. Lastly, there could be cash flow constraints. Revenue may come a couple of weeks later while you need to pay to your suppliers today. So, for having a lean startup, it is important that you launch with minimal waste. And here are some of the budget benchmarks for launching a lean business. First, product development and initial inventory should not be more than 40 to 50% of your initial budget. Branding and website would probably take between 10 to 15%. The remaining, in large part, should go into marketing and should allow you at least a 3 to 6 month runway of the cost that you will spend on running ads and making sure your brand becomes visible to customers. About 5 to 10% normally should be going into operational tools, working capital, and so on. For many first-time founders, a lean launch typically costs anywhere between 20,000 to 80,000 US dollars, depending on the type of product or service that you are planning to launch. For example, beauty versus apparel versus home goods. Digital only or drop shipping models also cost less. Now, where does this 20 to 80,000 come from? Most new e-commerce businesses will not qualify for venture capital investment, especially without any traction. So here are some of the real practical alternatives. that could allow you to secure that first financing to launch your business in 2026. First is friends and family. These people could be giving you small checks of about 5,000 to 10,000 or 20,000 US. Second, obviously, is angel investors. You can look for angels with consumer, brand, or retail backgrounds, and these people often invest based on the team, concept, and early prototypes. The third area that you can also tap into is crowdfunding. Kickstarter, Indiegogo are great alternatives for hardware, wellness, tech accessories, and innovative products. And this helps to fund production even before manufacturing. There's also revenue-based financing platforms that can give you cash advance based on your sales, but normally these work only once your store has some consistent revenue. The last is strategic partnerships with your retailers, distributors, or potentially manufacturers that take a small stake in your business. And this is especially good if you're operating in the consumer packaged goods, beauty, or home goods space. Important to remember here is that the goal is not to raise money. The goal is to validate your concept and business idea cheaply. Once you prove demand, the money will follow. Now you know what to keep in-house and what to outsource. You know what could be potentially the pain points or hurdles affecting your launch. You know how to allocate the budget to different activities, and you know how to raise the first funds to launch your business. But what should all this lead to? How should you measure success in the first couple of years? It's not revenue. Early revenue is noise. Instead, you need to focus on momentum. And these are some of the KPIs that you need to focus on in the first 1 or 2 years. So, in the first year, you need to make sure you're launching the minimum viable product with strong customer feedback. Second, you need to observe consistent sales every week, and they may not necessarily be profitable yet. Third, the observation should be that your customer acquisition costs are trending down month over month. Fourth, you start to see some repeat purchases, ideally around the 20% mark. So basically, in other words, 1 out of 5 customers is coming back to you for a second purchase. And lastly, you should have at least one scalable acquisition channel validated. And these acquisition channels could be TikTok creators, Meta ads, organic SEO, and so on. Once you move into the second year, you should see a continuous decline of your customer acquisition costs. And ideally, these costs should start to be lower than your gross margin per customer or at the level of break even. You should have better customer retention, meaning instead of 1 out of 5, maybe 2 or 3 out of 5 customers keep coming back to you. So you see roughly a 30 to 40% repeat purchase rate. You should ideally now be moving towards profitable or near profitable funds. Instead of one scalable acquisition channel, you should have now at least 2 working growth channels. And you should start to see healthy adoption of your business by your customers. The real win by end of year 2, your business is stable, repeatable, and not dependent on paid ads alone. You've built something that is stable now and can scale. So now you've seen launching an e-commerce business in 2026 isn't about having the biggest budgets. It's about staying lean, staying disciplined, and building around something that customers actually want. If you focus on product, brand, and sustainable growth, your business will have every chance to succeed. 4 very powerful funding sources that thousands of founders use to raise first financing without giving big chunks of equity in their business. We will talk about crowdfunding, incubators and accelerators, grants, and SME or bank loans. We will also talk about which types of businesses does each of the funding type work best for. Now let's dive in and start with the first one, which is crowdfunding. Crowdfunding is one of the most accessible ways to raise first funds, especially if you have a compelling story or a product that can get people excited about before it's even launched. Crowdfunding has gained a lot of popularity and adoption globally. The global crowdfunding market, as per a study, already reached more than 17 billion US dollars in 2024 and is expected to reach almost 40 billion by 2029. So over a 4-year period, crowdfunding is expected to gain popularity or gain growth by about 20%. Social media campaigns here are a big growth driver, with successful campaigns raising an average of 28 to 30,000 US dollars and campaigns with videos raising 150% more than that. Now, there are three main types of crowdfunding: reward based crowdfunding, equity crowdfunding, and donation based crowdfunding. As the name suggests, reward based crowdfunding is best for physical consumer products, hardware devices, creative projects, or innovative gadgets. For example, if you are launching a new smartwatch or a drone or a fitness gear, this is a great way to raise funding. And some examples of platforms that you can use include Kickstarter and Indiegogo. When we go into equity crowdfunding, this is best for consumer facing startups which have a community aspect, companies with strong branding, even if they are pre revenue. Some examples here would include breweries and coffee brands, clean energy startups, and SaaS based active user communities. A couple of platform examples here to raise funding include Seed Invest, WeFunder, Crowdcube. The third type of crowdfunding is donation based crowdfunding, and a popular platform here is GoFundMe. And typically, the kind of startups that raise funds here are social enterprises or companies looking to fund community projects and other non-profit entities. So, in a nutshell, crowdfunding is perfect when your product can excite people before it's built, and when you want to validate demand before launching your product. Next up is incubators and accelerators. Accelerators and incubators offer structure, mentorship, and network access, which is often more important than capital itself. But good news is that they often also provide small amounts of capital into companies that are part of their network. Incubators are usually early stage, focusing on building the idea and helping founders validate the concept, while accelerators, as the name suggests, are more focused on scaling. Naturally, many incubators feed into accelerator pathways. Incubators are best for idea stage businesses, prototypes, or founders who need structure and coaching. Tech or product businesses is still figuring out their model or initial product validation. They are great if you're still refining your business model or testing your first prototypes. And some examples here would include university based innovation hubs, local government supported technology parks, and community co working incubators. If you ask me some names, Y Combinator, TechStarts, Mass Challenge, and local innovation hubs are some of the examples of incubators. Accelerators, on the other hand, are more relevant for startups that are ready to grow, companies with early traction or MVPs or minimum viable products, digital startups, software as a service companies, direct to consumer brands, AI tools. Examples here include companies such as Techstars, Y Combinator, Mass Challenge. These programs can be quite transformative for a startup, often offering access to experienced individuals, mentors, investors, and alumni networks. Now let's move into grants. Grants are a dream scenario. This is non-dilutive money, meaning you don't give up any equity and you don't need to repay your grants. Grants come from governments, industry bodies, and private foundations. And typically, they are focused on innovation, economic impact, and social impact. Grants are best for scientific research and development, sustainability and climate solutions that have a big economic impact, social impact initiatives, export related businesses, especially in countries where the government is having a big focus on boosting exports. And some examples here on the type of entities that may be providing these fundings would include government innovation funds and clean energy development grants. So if your work advances technology or helps solve a social or economic problem, then grants could be a great way to raise funding or early funding for your business. Finally, let's talk about loans. Loans are something that many startup founders avoid because they fear debt. But for certain types of businesses, loan can be a great, very smart way to get started without giving up any equity in your business. And loans for startups or new enterprises can take two shapes. First is traditional bank loans. These are best for businesses with some revenue history, e-commerce brands with some sales, professional services, retail stores, manufacturing, or food and beverage businesses. Examples of companies here would include a bakery that is looking to finance equipment, a fashion boutique that's looking to open its first storefront, a growing e-commerce brand that requires some funds to buy first inventory. Banks love stability. So if you have predictable demand or collateral, you are a strong candidate. Research shows that 59% of the small businesses applied for loans in 2023, with the highest approval rates of up to 52% coming from small banks and credit unions. It is also important to know that approval rates vary by type. 73% approval for equipment loans, 54% for real estate loans, and 46% for business lines of credit. The second type of loan here is SME or government backed loans. These are often easier to access with lower interest rates. These are great for early businesses without long financial history, startups needing working capital, founders who prefer lower risk than private loans. Examples of where to get these would include government SME guarantee schemes or startup friendly micro loan programs. These programs are designed to promote entrepreneurship in the country, so your approval odds can be higher than traditional bank routes. In 2024, the Small Business Association approved over 70,000 loans, totaling more than 31 billion US dollars, with an average loan size of almost half a million. So, raising your first round doesn't mean convincing VCs or angel investors. When venture capital isn't available or when venture capital isn't the right path, founders still have powerful options. Crowdfunding validates demand and raises early capital. Accelerators or incubators improve success odds and unlock very important networking benefits. Grants provide free, non dilutive funding. Loans support businesses with predictable economics. Remember, the best fundraising strategy is one that fits your business model, your stage, and your risk profile. 9 considerations that are very important if you are looking to launch an online business in 2026. I will bucket these into 3 areas. First, must do because these are absolutely the fundamentals. Second, should do if it is possible for you, if your budget allows. Third, nice to do if it is relevant for the product or service that you are selling or the type of online sales model that you have implemented. Keep in mind that these 9 things are not your typical considerations. such as having a product catalog, investing in search engine optimization, or simply running social media ads. These are new trends that have emerged over the last 1 to 3 years and are completely reshaping how businesses sell online these days. Now let's go into the first bucket, which is what is must do for you, meaning these are the fundamentals. And in this bucket, I will put three considerations. First is AI driven and agentic commerce. Consumers are increasingly starting product searches via ChatGPT and other AI agents, not Google. These tools provide direct recommendations and can even handle in chat checkouts. As per a recent study, ChatGPT based traffic of shopping and product discovery was up more than 800% just in the last year. And conversion rates were hovering around 8%, much higher than the 2 to 3% that we are typically used to in online businesses before the AI driven world. Agentic commerce is where AI systems automatically guide, discovery, comparison, and even purchase. And they are reshaping inventory planning as well. Who is doing it? Shopify. Shopify is enabling direct in-chat purchasing in ChatGPT. This makes millions of Shopify products discoverable by AI, and it collapses discovery, decision, and purchase all into one flow. What do you need to do, or what is at stake if you don't do this? First, you need to leverage AI plugins, for example, Shopify plus OpenAI. Optimize product data for AI discovery. Design agent-friendly content. In other words, make your catalog, such as titles, attributes, product availability information, pricing information, LLM readable. So AI storefronts can complete the loop. What is at stake, you ask? Brands not AI optimized risk being invisible in search recommendations. Second is social commerce. Social media as a business is booming. TikTok Shop has become a scalable commerce related trend. And this is blending entertainment and native checkout. In 2025, TikTok shops accounted for 18 to 20% of all US social e-commerce. Based on a recent study, 70% of people expect to shop via social media channels by 2030. This is a huge number, and it is paramount that any digital business starting in 2026 is already starting on this journey. Platforms that are leading this space are TikTok globally, WeChat in China, Instagram is also quite popular, and so on. A great example here is of the company Fabuloso, which is established in 2019, and they sell fragrance-based home cleaning products. Products such as multi-purpose cleaners, antibacterial sprays, disinfectants, room and fabric fresheners, etc. They collaborated with over 100,000 creators, which helped them create a viral flywheel. And this helped them increase impressions, engagement, and conversion. Their popularity can be gauged from the fact that they won TikTok Shop UK's FMCG award because of almost 800% growth in their TikTok related sales. Now, what do you need to do? You need to integrate shopping experiences into content and creator strategies. Leverage in-app checkout, build engaging live events, build always-on creator programs, and merchant-led live streams with in-app checkout. Treat TikTok not just as a place to run your social media ads, but as a marketplace plus affiliate plus performance media. You must optimize across different demographics. Especially if your company is targeting Gen Z, they definitely favor TikTok and Instagram. Older groups might be looking at more places like Facebook. Third is VC, not venture capital, not video conferencing, but voice commerce. The global voice commerce market is projected to grow to almost $200 billion by 2030, 3 to 4 times bigger than what it is today. And this is largely driven by adoption of smart speakers and IoT devices, which offer convenience for reordering and hands-free interactions. A great example here is that of Starbucks that integrated with Amazon Alexa and other voice platforms, allowing customers to reorder with ease. For example, users can say, Alexa, order my usual from Starbucks, and the system pulls their saved preferences and places the order on their behalf. Now you can optimize your product data catalog for voice-assisted queries. This would allow you to enable frictionless reorders at a minimum, which is really a low-hanging fruit, and also build brand presence across voice platforms. It is also important to keep in mind some of the voice interface limitations and privacy, security, compliance related issues before you venture on this path. Now let's go into the second bucket, which is considerations that you should do if it is possible for you. And here again, I would call out three things. First is augmented and virtual reality shopping. Now, AR and VR tech has matured quite significantly over the last number of years. 60% of US consumers, as per a recent study, are frequent augmented reality users. And it is also said that brands that use AR visuals see up to 94% higher conversions and an average 40% drop in returns because, let's be honest, people already have a fair idea of what they are buying. Applications here include virtual try-ons on things like apparel, cosmetics, eyewear, and in-home product visualization for things like furniture, home decoration, appliances, and so on. A great example here is that of IKEA. Shoppers visualize true to scale furniture in their space. Several brand stores on Amazon are also leveraging this feature, which is allowing them to have a better conversion rate. What do you need to do is invest in augmented reality content and virtual showrooms to enhance engagement and reduce returns. Now, obviously, you cannot focus on all the product SKUs that you might be selling because in your case, they might be hundreds or thousands. And there's a significant amount of investment when we talk about having 3D models for augmented reality, virtual reality shopping. And in this case, you can prioritize high impact SKUs for creating the 3D models in the first stage. It is also important to keep measuring the impact on conversions and make any changes if necessary to justify scaling up further investment in this area. An important consideration here is that you must be targeting user segments with hardware access because let's be honest, the virtual reality and augmented reality based try-ons are more geared towards this space. And you also need to measure ROI against implementation costs consistently. The second consideration in this second bucket is something that is very close to my heart. I'm sure some of you can guess that already. It is sustainability and circular commerce or re-commerce, which is the new name popping up quite frequently these days. What is it? There is rising consumer demand of eco-friendly products. E-commerce logistics are estimated to emit more than 25 million metric tons of carbon emissions by 2030. It's a huge number. 80% of consumers are willing to pay more for sustainable products. Another important trend in here is there's growth in the second-hand or resale market. For example, clothing resale is expected to grow more than 9 times faster than new fashion by the next 2 to 3 years. Since this topic is very close to my heart, I will give here two examples. First is Patagonia, whose one wear integrates trade-in, repair, and resale and remanufacture. This is a true circular system that builds loyalty and incremental revenue while extending product life. Another great example here is that of Zention Technologies. This company operates a subscription-based e-commerce and device services platform for consumer electronics. Basically, the business model includes three things. First, subscription access to tech devices such as mobile phones, smartwatches, laptops, and so on. Rather than buying them outright, users can subscribe to these devices. Users can upgrade, switch brands, or return devices flexibly at a lower monthly cost than purchasing. As you can imagine, all of this is linked to device lifecycle management and circular economy. Basically, this company is integrating repairs, refurbishing, reselling, and recycling all into this very nice loop that is creating a full circular ecosystem where devices cycle through multiple users and increase asset value while reducing waste. The third thing that they're doing, which is helping them unlock additional revenues, is providing protection services, extended warranties, and buyback programs. You can also introduce circular models around reselling, rental, recycling, eco packaging, carbon offset options, and transparent reporting of the sustainability related attributes of the products that you are selling. It is important that you are treating circularity as an operating model and not just a campaign to boost visibility of your products. Some things that you need to be cautious here are streamlining reverse logistics, repair capacity, and brand resale. If you can take care of these areas, then circularity or remanufacturing is a process or a model that you should absolutely focus on. The third consideration in here, which has been around for some time, and it probably started to emerge maybe 4 or 5 years ago already, is unified commerce or hybrid commerce. Now we know buyers hop from online to offline very frequently. And it is important that they get the same experience regardless of the touch point that they are using to interact with your products. There's significant growth in research online, purchase offline. In some studies, we've seen that 80% people are searching for the products online, but then ultimately 20% or 30% may be buying that online, whereas others go into the shop to try those products, have a real feel before they actually consider purchasing. A couple of great examples here are that of Walmart, that has stores as fulfillment flywheel. IKEA is recognized also in the 2025 Unified E-commerce benchmark as a top performer, seamlessly integrating digital and physical retail experiences. They offer seamless experiences such as synced carts, unified product and consumer data, integrated checkout, and consistent fulfillment options, leveraging real-time data across all parts of the customer journey. In your company, definitely you can bank on this trend, ensuring unified inventory, consistent experience, and ability to pick up, deliver from any channel. Obviously, this is relevant for companies who have an online sales model but also have physical storefronts. If you are just selling online, then this is probably not applicable to you. Now, let's go into the third bucket, which is nice to do things if it is possible for you, if your budget allows, and so on, because some of these things are quite budget intensive or complex to implement. First is hyper personalization and AI based automation. AI personalization basically means Having tailored product recommendations based on the customer's purchase history across your company or other companies, or based on their other data that they have decided to publicly share across social media channels, and so on and so forth. Hyper-personalization also includes things like dynamic pricing, predictive emails, chatbot interactions, and so on. Now, depending on how you are selling your product or service, you may or may not need to invest in these areas. For example, we know Shopify and other such similar platforms are already having some native capabilities for AI-based product recommendations at a minimum. A great example in this domain is that of Sephora, which is a personal care brand, or a chain of personal care stores. And they are having a functionality for AI or augmented reality based try-ons, which are very data driven. And of course, they are having data driven recommendations for product purchases as well. When it comes to you, you can definitely use AI across the life cycle or the overall purchase journey of any customer. And this would help improve retention metrics for your company. It is important that you are clear about data usage and your privacy policy, because with more and more adoption of AI comes more and more considerations about cybersecurity and privacy of customer data. The second thing in this bucket of nice to do things is blockchain for supply chain transparency. Blockchain is increasingly gaining traction when it comes to transparent logistics and traceability of the products, of the supplier value chain, and so on. Walmart is another example here that is implementing blockchain systems for traceability of their products, and this has allowed them to reduce provenance lookup from 7 days to only 2.2 seconds. A very important consideration here is that blockchain networks can be very complex and costly, so you absolutely need to prioritize proven use cases to be implementing this technology in your company. You can you can start with a high risk category, mandate that your suppliers participate in the program with you, and integrate blockchain events into recalls. The last thing in this third bucket, which probably could also be in the first bucket of must do things, depending again on the type of product or service that you are selling, is subscription and recurring commerce models. Now, subscription models have surged across categories, be it fashion, beauty, consumables, and they drive predictive revenue and promote brand loyalty as well. A great example here is that of Dollar Shave Club, where subscription has really helped the company improve retention significantly. They have 12-month packages because, let's be honest, people who shave, they need to constantly keep reordering their blades, their razors, shaving foam, and things like that. The brand remains a benchmark for direct-to-consumer subscription flywheels. Another great example, which I also called out earlier for sustainability and re-commerce, is that of Zenshin Technologies, that has implemented a subscription-based business model for purchasing technology gadgets such as smartwatches, mobile phones, and laptops, where consumers pay a monthly fee for getting access to these devices, and in return, they also have flexibility to upgrade devices, and they don't need to worry about things like warranties and so on. Now, what do you need to do is launch subscription packages if your product or service is falling into a category where it is quite common for consumers to do repeat purchases. You need to ensure that you are aligning acquisition incentives to the lifetime value of the customers and not just the first purchase. For example, to hook customers for the first purchase, you might be giving a 10%, 20% off coupon to make that first purchase. You need to ensure you have a similar system in place for customers to keep coming back to you. right? And if you have a discount for customers who subscribe to a 12-month package where they get a delivery every quarter from your company, that is going to help you have predictable revenues over the life cycle of the customer and significantly boost the lifetime value of the customer for your company. So, to recap, what should you do if you are considering launching an online business in 2026? First, ensure your catalog is discoverable by a chat AIs. Second, broaden your presence across social storefronts to ride on the wave of social commerce and not just use social media as a way to run campaign ads. Third, ramp up efforts around voice platforms, at least to capture low hanging fruits around reordering, especially if your product or service falls in that category where customers tend to do repeat purchases. A couple of things that you should do if it is possible for you is embed data-driven personalization and loyalty programs. Use AI responsibly to boost retention. Second, pilot augmented reality related experiences, especially if you are selling hardware products that go into a living room or sticks on a wall. The third thing in this category, or the sixth consideration overall, is sustainability initiatives by having circular, remanufactured, or nearly new catalog section in your store. Start small and iterate based on performance. Next three considerations, which are optional if your budget allows, if it is relevant to you. And here, think of launching a subscription package. Again, if you are selling consumables or if you are selling the type of product where consumers tend to do repeat purchases. Fully integrate omni-channel systems across the customer journey, especially if you are selling online, but you are also having physical storefronts. Last, explore blockchain where trust is key, particularly to map all your suppliers and have traceability in a much stronger fashion in categories like food, luxury, and wellness. Keep in mind, this ninth consideration is also very cost intensive, so you really need to prioritize use cases. By targeting these evolving trends, especially around AI driven price discovery, immersive shopping, and sustainability, you can build resilience and unlock new revenues for your company. Experiencing what I experienced, I thought it will be great to share with you so that you don't make the same mistake and lose precious customers. So, all this started when I placed an order to purchase some stationery online, including some notebooks, a pen, some ink, and a pen case. And I did that at a relatively renowned store called Appleboom. Now, why I call them renowned is because they have a large variety of listings and a lot of brands presented on their website. They are quite active on social media, and some of the luxury items that they sell are also reviewed by pen critics around the world. So, I placed an order in November to benefit from a discount on the fountain pen day, which is a few weeks before Black Friday. Now, as you can see here, I placed this order on the 7th of November, and immediately I get a copy of the invoice listing down all the four items that I have purchased. The first you see is a pen, the second a pen case, the third is a bottle of ink, and fourth some notebooks. So far, so good. Now, as you saw in the invoice, there are two items. First, the pen, which says it is going to be delivered in the next 2 to 3 weeks. And second is the bottle of ink, which says it is sold out. No surprise, I get an email from the company the next day mentioning that some of the items that I've ordered are not in stock, and they specifically point out to the ink and request if I would like to order an alternative. So far, good experience, and I replied back immediately with my alternative preference. Now, as you remember, the first item, which was the pen, mentioned it will take about 2 to 3 weeks to get delivered. So I patiently wait for 3 weeks, and then I try to check the order status, and I find that it is still not shipped. As such, I reach out naturally to the company by email, requesting them for a status update. And here you see, I have clearly mentioned after logging into my account on your website, I still see the order pending stock. Please update me when it will be shipped. It's been a few weeks already. I get a response immediately saying we are waiting for the specialty nib from the pen company. Again, so far, so good. But weeks passed again, and now the experience started to be bad. On December 12th, I wrote back again saying, it's been more than a month. When I placed the order, it showed about 2 to 3 weeks to get the pen, but now it's been too long, and this is not proving to be a great experience for me. Again, immediately I get a response, but surprisingly not about the pen. Now it's about the pen case, which was never mentioned in any of the previous communications. And when I responded back with my surprise on this response, the company replied back again saying, "Oh, it was actually always a problem because it was never in stock." So now you start to see that experience is starting to turn very bad, and it's been more than a month since I placed the order. So I also tell them that, guys, this product was in stock when I placed the order. But apparently they said no, it was not. And then I realized maybe, and I felt maybe it's my mistake. So I responded back, sharing my surprise and saying that you probably should have reserved one piece for me when I placed the order, which is a fair thing to do. But then the company responded back saying that the item was never in stock. And I perfectly remember when I placed the order, it did not say any such thing on the website. And again, if you recall the invoice, there were only two things which had an issue. One, the pen, which mentioned 2 to 3 weeks for delivery, and second, the ink, which said out of stock, and I already shared my preference for an alternative. Nevertheless, I thought maybe I'm wrong, maybe it was out of stock, and now I don't have any way to go back in time and check if that item on that particular day, on the 7th of November, when I ordered, it was in stock or not. So I said, okay, let's forget about it. Maybe I was wrong. But then when I went back onto the on Apple Boom's website, I see again that the product is in stock. And this time I sent another email reflecting a little bit and sharing a little bit on the previous communication that I've been having with this company for the last many weeks now. And here I also propose them to fix the product listing in case it actually is not in stock, but there's something wrong on the website, if the status is being reflected incorrectly. So I made the suggestion to the company so that nobody else faces the same issues that I had with my order. Again, the company responded back saying we had already communicated to you about the status of the products, saying unfortunately the ordered items are not in stock. Now, perhaps what would have helped is if the company was a little bit more specific on which products are not in stock, because compared to looking at the information in the invoice, the impression that the customer gets is that these products are in stock and these products I can expect a delay. So, Appleboom and other companies, I think when you don't have something in stock, it is good to communicate more clearly to the customer on exactly where is the problem so that it doesn't lead to a poor customer experience. But to my surprise, my bad experience ordeal did not stop there. Now, luckily, I received my order, but I received it with the wrong product. Again, I replied back to the company, taking a picture of the product and also a small video mentioning that I ordered this particular pen with the gold trim, but you have shipped it to me in the silver trim. And I also mentioned on top of this, the ink converter that is supposed to be inside the pen is not the one that normally this brand of pen ships with. Now, from here, my bad experience is turning to an extremely bad experience. And in large part, this is because of the kind of response that I'm getting from this online retailer. So they reply back immediately. So 5 stars on the speed of response. But they are not willing to own their mistake. They're not willing to really do anything concretely about this after I waited to receive my order for more than a month. So here's their response. There's not a lot we can do about it. Or do you expect that we check each and every pen that comes in? We receive pens in the boxes from the company, and we expect that the correct pen is in there with the correct converter. And then they say, if you don't like it, you are welcome to return it. Now, you see, at this point, the company is not really trying to own the mistake. They're not really trying to comfort the customer. In fact, they're trying to blame it on someone else. Naturally, I responded back with the following. I do expect you to check the pen before sending the courier because I am purchasing on your website. Right? I think this is very important. If you are the one facing the customer, it is ultimately your responsibility to make sure that the customer is getting the best experience. And now the company responded back again with an apology, saying they are a specialized retailer and they rely on their suppliers to do the right thing. And as such, they don't check each and everything because they trust their suppliers and so on and so forth. But by this time, as you can see, the experience had already turned extremely bad. So I thought maybe yes, it could be the manufacturer's fault. And I took a look at the box of the pen. And here you see in the barcode, it says ST, which means silver trim. So the point is, this company or this retailer did not even bother to check what is written on the box. So the pen was exactly the right one inside the box. In fact, the pen was not even the one that I ordered. Now, most likely, someone at this retailer, when they put the order with the manufacturer, they put the incorrect order. But again, what is leading to a bad experience here is the retailer not owning their mistake. Even if it is not their mistake, it is the manufacturer's mistake. These are the people who a customer is dealing with, and it is their responsibility to listen to the customer and take corrective action. Then I did something which I should have done actually before placing my order, and which is what I usually do whenever I am placing orders online at a new company, which is to try to take a look at reviews and what other people say about this particular online shop. Now, why I didn't do this is because I've been seeing this company a lot on social media. I've been hearing about them from some pen critics and influencers. And I've been seeing a large variety of brands listed on their webshop. So, genuinely, because of all these things, I had an inherent level of trust in this company. But let's go back to some of the other comments. Here, you see disappointment shared by another customer on the quality of experience that they provided, this time in the store. Second customer also talks about the awful customer service and goes to the extent of saying deceiving practices of listing pens as in stock when actually they will just place an order once they receive the payment from you, which can take weeks, if not months. And there were many other such comments, and I don't think we need to go into too much detail in that. Now, you might be wondering how such a company is able to survive this long. Now, here are three things why. First, they are very active on social media. I see reels from them on Instagram more or less every day, and I get email newsletters from them more or less about every week. Second, they are active with fountain pen critics and influencers who often call them out in their videos talking about how they got a particular item or pen on loan from Appleboom to review. Third, they probably have one of the biggest collection of stationery items listed on their webshop. All this gives the impression that they're very legitimate and trustworthy. So while they are getting new customers because of their digital marketing efforts, they are not retaining existing customers. Existing customers like me are sharing their experiences online. And I'm sure, unlike me, there are many potential customers who are first reading reviews about such retailers online and then considering taking their business elsewhere. If you are thinking of launching an online shop in 2026, don't make this mistake of providing a bad customer experience. This will make your product or service look bad, regardless of whatever the quality of that product or service. Because, as I said, again, customer experience is at least as important as the quality of product or service that you are selling. If you already have a business but are lacking on the customer experience front, take this as an inspiration and take corrective actions before it's too late. Now, let's take a look at a good customer experience example. This is about a restaurant that sells biryani, which is a very popular dish commonly considered to come from South Asia, even though if it is not. So here, there's a review. There are a couple of people who every Friday go to this particular restaurant to have biryani. And now they are complaining saying it was good 2 or 3 months ago. However, since November, the taste has lost its touch and they complain about the chicken and the quality of the rice and potatoes and so on. And they close by saying this is an official complaint of about 11 people. Now, here, what does a company do when they provide good customer experience? Let's look at the response from the owner of the company. First, the owner starts with an apology because the customer is always right. Customer at this point already feels acknowledged. It is important to remember that nobody takes the time and effort to write a lengthy review or complain about something if nothing is wrong. Second, the owner explained that there is a process to ensure quality standards. At the same time, they acknowledge that it is possible something went wrong because on Fridays there's a lot of customers, and because of that, probably the standards that they have set in place were not fully complied with. Regardless, they own their mistake. Rather than pointing finger at the customer or a staff member at the company or one of the suppliers, this company is owning their mistake. After this, they did not offer any refund coupons. In fact, they ordered free biryani delivered at the doorstep of the customer. This is called going the extra mile and recapturing the customer that you already lost or potentially are at a risk of losing. Subsequently, they offered an additional discount for the subsequent order. And the discount not only was offered to the complaining customers, but to any customer who was reading this post. To give now these things give an impression to anyone considering purchasing from your company that you are someone who will own your mistake if something goes wrong, and this leads to an amazing customer experience. Now you notice here that 11% also has a meaning because there were 11 people who complained. Lastly, the company committed to train the staff and ensure that this bad experience never happens to anyone else again. So this is an example of an amazing customer experience where a company is starting with an apology and acknowledgement of the issue raised by the customer. They're explaining that there is a process that maybe was not complied with. Regardless of that process, nobody should have such an experience. So at this point, they're owning their mistake, not pointing fingers to anyone or blaming anyone else. After that, they're trying to go the extra mile and beyond the extra mile by giving discounts on subsequent orders and fully committing to making sure that this issue does not take place again in the future. If you've made it this far, hit that like button and consider subscribing to my channel, and see you next time.